We joined Douglas Alexander. And Douglas Alexander, of course, you were the election coordinator for a kind of Blairite view of the Labour Party, Ed Miliband, and before that with Gordon Brown and Tony Blair. What do you make of the success of Jeremy Corbyn? It's a new kind of Labour Party that's emerging, it seems.
I think people, young people in particular, are hardwired for hope. And I can't honestly remember as hopeless a campaign from a government, a Conservative government, as we've witnessed from Theresa May. So south of the border, it seems to me the Conservatives are being badly punished for the kind of campaign that they've run. And north of the border, the SNP tide is flooding out. How far that tide falls, we'll see in the course of the coming hours. But there's absolutely no doubt that both the parties of government, the Conservatives in England and the Scottish National Party here in Scotland, appear to have been decisively rejected when they were anticipating much, much stronger results.
Do you think Ed Miliband was too cautious in the sort of Labour policy that he presented 2 years ago?
Listen, I always think there's a whole range of factors that make up any election defeat or any election victory. Some people say that this manifesto is very similar to Ed Miliband's, others say it's very different. Some people say Jeremy's very similar to Ed Miliband, some people say he's very different. The truth is, I'm more interested in what lies ahead for the Labour Party, and it looks like we are making gains, not just here in Scotland, against many people's expectations, but also right across England.
Are you going to see your old seat, which Mary Black took from you for the SNP? Is that going to go back to Labour tonight?
My sense is it's too close to call, but it's just one of a number of seats across West Central Scotland where people were writing us off, but the indications are that Labour is very much back in the game, and in every part of Scotland we're seeing that very high tide that we saw for the SNP just 2 years ago falling backwards, and it looks like a very difficult night for a party that couldn't really decide, was this an election about Brexit or an election about a second independence referendum. It's certainly done huge damage to those people arguing for a second independence referendum, because politics, as you know, is about momentum, and here the SNP are falling backwards as surely as the Conservatives have not moved forward south of the border.
Are you surprised at the Corbyn effect? Are you surprised at the crowds? You talk about idealism among the young. When you saw, I mean, yesterday evening, I think it was, in London, he had crowds, not of 1,000, but of thousands, we're told.
Well, there's a couple of points. I'd probably be the last person you need to convince not to believe opinion polls during election campaigns, given what I experienced and lived through a couple of years ago. So in that sense, I think I was willing to wait and see in all sincerity what would happen. And there is no doubt that Jeremy Corbyn has campaigned with spirit and with a sense of authenticity that was wholly lacking from the Conservative campaign. If you like, the contrast suited Labour, Jeremy arguing for a politics that he clearly believes in, and on the other hand, Theresa May apparently unable to answer the most basic and straightforward questions when she was asked. So I think in that sense, this particular context has emphasised not just a fundamentally different vision of the country, but also a different way of doing politics. And of course, like in every election, there are going to be lessons to be learned.